everyone. So we just want to welcome you to our first in-person event of the 23rd Annual Ivy Film Festival. I'm one of the festival directors, Anna, and this is Maya and Vivian, and they're also the festival directors. So Ivy Film Festival will be happening from April 10th through April 16th, so check out our Instagram. We have all of our events posted there. We'd love to see you there. And so, yeah, we'll just get into it. We're really happy to have you here.
Like Anna said, I'm Vivian. Thank you guys for being here. Festival week is running all week. If you're looking to buy some merch, we'll be on the main green. We have t-shirts, bandanas, totes, sticker sheets, everything you could want and more on sale 10 a.m. to 3:30 every day this week. Come by, come hang out with us. It's nice and sunny. And we have a bunch more events. Even today, we're going to have a virtual event after this with Debbie Wish. And then we have 2 screenings, one of Polite Society right here in Granoff. And after that, another screening of Renfield, which is almost sold out. So make sure to get your tickets. It's Nicolas Cage as Dracula. So if you're into that kind of thing, then come through. Yeah, we're really happy to have you guys here. Thank you.
And I'm Maya. I'm also one of the festival directors. Thank you so much for being here. I just love to intro our speakers and screeners coordinators who are going to be moderating this event. We have the lovely Lemmy and Ailsa, who are on the speakers and screeners team. They're first years, and they have been incredible coordinating this event with the wonderful Joy Sunday. So we're really excited to have you all watch them shine and have a really generative conversation. So we hope you enjoy this event, and thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our discussion. My name is Ailsa Kokoricha, and I am a first-year student here at Brown University and one of the co-moderators for today.
And my name is Lemmy Greaves. I'm also a first-year student here at Brown, co-moderating today's event. We are so excited to introduce our next speaker, Joy Sunday. She's a multi-hyphenated actor of Nigerian descent, born and raised in New York City. As a child, she dreamed of being a pop star, but discovered her love of acting in middle school. She chose to study drama at the world-renowned Fiorello H. LaGuardia High. She later graduated from USC's film school with an honors degree in critical studies, alongside several filmmaking distinctions and artist initiatives, including the Tribeca Film Festival and the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. She's had film appearances in Justin Simien's Bad Hair, Channing Tatum's Dog, Cooper Raiff's Shit House, and Jen Cummings and PJ McCabe's Beta Test.
In 2021, Joy landed the role of Bianca Barclay opposite Jenna Ortega in Tim Burton's debut television series, Wednesday. In 2022, Joy performed in a political 3-hander play called Intelligence as part of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. She hit the ground running in 2023 when she became the face of the first digital cover of MiniV Magazine, a sister publication of V Magazine. She loves her family, Twizzlers, and wakes up every day wondering why she doesn't have a dog. And please join us in welcoming Joy to the
Sunday.
stage. Hello.
Hi.
We're now going to head into our questions for Joy, and there will be an opportunity for anyone in the audience to ask Joy questions at the end of the Q&A.
Hello.
Hi.
For our first question. So, Addams Family is a very popular franchise. Many people grew up with it. It's been in American pop culture for like a century or something now. So I'm just wondering, did you grow up watching Wednesday Addams and the rest of the Addams Family as a child?
Absolutely not. As a kid growing up, my parents are pretty strict about what we got to watch. They're Nigerian and they're pretty religious, and so the Addams Family was definitely not in the program. But I was always aware of the Addams Family, and I always appreciated that kind of humor. And so, yeah, I've always grown up knowing and peripherally loving it, but definitely not until adulthood did I get to actually indulge.
Okay.
So growing up in a Nigerian household myself, I do like have some experience with that, like avoidance of like the supernatural and like horror. So could you tell us like how your family reacted to hearing that you'd been cast in Wednesday?
So when I first told my parents, I knew they would have no idea who Tim Burton is. And so it was just exciting that I had finally gotten this role that provided me stability and just notoriety and all of that. They knew I would disappear for 7 months, and they knew it would eventually come out, but I don't think they realized the scope of it, and I don't think I did either. As it was getting closer and they were releasing trailers for it, I remember asking my mom, like, I was trying to, wean her onto the idea, like, hey, I'm in this super demonic show. So the Thing trailer came out, and so I was like, okay, this is a good way to introduce her to it. So I go up to her and I'm like, okay, Mom, so you know the Addams Family, right? And she was like, yeah, the very demonic show, I didn't like it. And I was like, okay, so you know that's the show I'm on, right? And she was like, oh, I didn't realize, but okay, that's great. And then my dad, I was actually at the premiere with him, and I don't know why it didn't connect for me, but I didn't realize he would actually have to watch the episode with me at the premiere. And so it was starting to play, and I turned to my dad and I say, Dad, this is a horror show. And he goes, that's okay, I've watched The Shining. So they were pretty easy about it, thankfully. I think they were just generally excited that I was getting to do it. And I think I've definitely broadened their horizons, for sure.
I love that.
Yeah, that's definitely good. I remember when I first watched the show, I made the mistake of putting it on in front of my entire family on our TV. And so, my parents are sitting down, they're watching the first episode with me. And when it's done, they're like, Lemmy, I hope you're not going to continue watching that stuff. And it became a whole lecture of demons in the media. And I was like, okay, Mom.
Initiation.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so anyways, Wednesday, it was like an instant hit. It felt like it was living on the top 10 in Netflix, and it even broke Stranger Things' streaming record, and then it broke that record again the next week. So I'm just wondering, did you know, I guess, when you were cast and while you were filming that this would be your breakout role?
No, not at all. I think it was funny because they were showing us the episodes before it was released, just so that we'd be able to, talk to press and all of that. And I was watching it and I was like, okay, Joy, like, cute, whatever. And then it came out and I realized that people were really, really connecting to Bianca in a way that I did intend for them to, but I didn't realize I was successful in doing so. And it's funny for people to say breakout role because, sure, I mean, I guess I'm a celebrity now, whatever, but other than that, my life is pretty much normal. But it is really beautiful for people to recognize how much work went into it, and for that, I can appreciate it.
I guess getting into, like, you saying your life is pretty normal still, how would you say Wednesday has kind of changed things for you?
Well, maybe normal is a bit of an exaggeration. I'm for sure, I've always loved to travel, but I'm definitely getting to do that more frequently and with more liberty as well. I think it's also, it can be tough to look at celebrities and understand kind of, one, the crazy things that they can do. Not that I plan on doing anything crazy, but it's funny because when I first started doing press, I was so nervous about it because I was like, there's no way I'm not gonna mess up. Like, I'm gonna mess up because these people just say the most idiotic things in these interviews. Like, but I get there and it was like perfectly fine. And I think more than anything, Wednesday has prepared me for a career of notoriety, which I'm really grateful for because I don't feel as much nervousness with it as I did before. But I think, I'm trying to live my life normally, but it is pretty hard to be out and about in the world as myself. But I take it every day as it comes. Yeah.
So moving into our next question for you. So in Wednesday, Bianca, the character you played, was the most popular girl at Nevermore Academy, which is, to say, a bit of a departure from what's commonly shown in media as like a representation of popularity in schools. Like, you know, the typical like image is like a blonde white girl, like, I don't know, like really bubbly and everything. But like, what did it mean to you to be able to like show a different side of that, to show that like, oh, like a black girl with a shaved head can be like the most popular person, she can be beloved by everyone, like on like the most popular like television series like of last year?
Yeah, it's funny, growing up, that was definitely what TV tried to sell me, is that image of the popular girl, but like that was not the popular girl I grew up with. The popular girl I grew up with wasn't necessarily limited to race or look. It was about a magnetism and a gravitas that people envied. And I think that's where I drew a lot of inspiration for Bianca. I mean, like, I don't know how important it is to have mean girl representation for Black women, but I do know it is really lovely to see a character be desirable in that way, or to see people aspire to be like someone like Bianca, just in the way that she, you know, wants the best for herself and she defends what she loves. And is strong in her character and is appreciated for being so. I think that's a really important part of Bianca's existence. So yeah, I didn't grow up with that image, and I don't think that I thought it was a departure from the mythology of the mean girl. I think, if anything, I added to what it was in reality for me.
Yeah, I was definitely drawn to Bianca's strong character while I was watching the show. Quite intimidated as well, but overall, no, yeah, I thought she was just, you did a really good job. You did a really good job.
Thank you.
And so, what was your process like, I guess, crafting the character of Bianca? Where would you draw that inspiration?
I had so much fun. I mean, I wanted Bianca to be like the mini version of an It Girl. I tried to imagine who would be the people she would have on her bedroom wall if we could see it. And that's essentially what I shot for. And also just this idea that as a young girl, you're trying to build that image for yourself. And so it at times does feel like a caricature. And that's what I also had fun playing with, that kind of level, because it's not that she is this perfect girl, it's that she's trying to be. And so in what ways can she also be awkward? In what ways can she also be kind of kiddish, you know? But I definitely had fun with the fashions. I created this like whole mood board for her, which the costume designer actually took to, and we had a lot of fun. I was probably his favorite whenever it came to fittings, because we would just like stay there for like 2 hours. So yeah, no, I had a lot of fun crafting Bianca, just in terms of what she would aspire to be, as opposed to trying to fit this idea of a popular girl.
That's really lovely to hear, and especially that you had like so much fun working on the production. And like, this has been a dream of yours for a while, since you were like much younger, to be an actress. So how did you know from an early age that you like wanted to work in film and television?
I don't know that at a young age I knew it was film and television. I think it was just performing in general and expression in general. I also knew I was terrible at math and science, so I knew that those paths were not really clear for me. I loved to argue, and so law was kind of there, but again, law is, you know, being a lawyer is kind of a performance in itself, and so I knew that I really loved being able to control a room, or command a room rather. So I think naturally, because I was running away from math and science, I ended up in the arts. Not to be at odds for anybody who's doing both of those. But I think I thankfully had really supportive parents who kind of, when I articulated that I wanted to do those things, put me in those areas. I was also a very proactive kid, and so I would see a program and want to try it out, and that's how I, you know, kept being exposed to adults who were working in the industry. And I think I was just really curious about it, and I wanted to fulfill this idea that had been introduced to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely love that you went for that. And you went to the prestigious I cannot pronounce the name of the school.
LaGuardia.
Yeah. You went to LaGuardia High School and then the USC School of Cinematic Studies, two institutions that are known for preparing young students in a career for entertainment. We would love to hear more about your journey from, I guess, high school to here.
Well, it was a windy road, hills and valleys for sure. I think high school and being in high school for theater was pretty tough, actually. And the program wasn't necessarily kind to a lot of its students. And so I found myself kind of discouraged from pursuing acting exclusively, which is why I turned to film, because I figured if I get good enough, eventually I could be in my own stuff and still get to act. So that's how I also ended up at USC. And I was producing films while I was there and sometimes being in them, working on other people's films, but I figured that I could have this stable life and then pursue acting. And I think I had a meeting with one person and they were like, oh, like, if you're deciding between a writer and an actor, I would choose an actor because you have less time. And at the time, it was a pretty sexist comment, but also like, it put a fire under my butt, and and I decided to go for it full throttle. And I was at the time working at Paramount as a creative assistant. So I was like super set, on my way to being a producer, but I couldn't ignore the bug. And so I quit, signed up for classes again, found a manager within a month, luckily, and here I am today.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 years later.
I love that.
Hearing about your journey is just like really inspiring, like as a Black woman who also wants to work in entertainment, and I really love hearing about that, so thank you. And so you did study theater acting while in high school and were recently in a play in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So how would you say that theater acting translates into film acting, and like what are some of the like differences and similarities between the two?
Well, when I had quit my job and gotten into class, the first teacher I went to was actually a graduate of the Yale graduate drama program. And so, which was nice because he had a background in theater but was teaching film acting. And I know for sure when I first arrived, I was pretty big on camera and all of that. But I don't know exactly what happened, but I think it just probably snapped one day and I suddenly was able to do film acting as, it's smaller, it's a bit more nuanced. Or not nuanced necessarily, but it has to be because you don't want to be too big, otherwise you're kind of blowing up the camera, right? But I think there's something about pacing that's really important with film, and it also depends on the director as well. I think they say like theater is the actor's medium, film is the director's medium, and TV is the writer's medium. And so if you think about it in that way, there are just different facets of it that complement, what you're trying to do. So I don't necessarily feel like there's a difference. I just think there's levels to it and what you're trying to emphasize when you're doing film versus theater. Doing the play, which was the first play I had done essentially since high school, was really big because it was, Edinburgh Fringe, which is like the largest theater festival in the world. And I was there for a month. And so it was kind of retraining my senses that I'd kind of put to the side for a while. I think with camera, it can be so intimate and I don't feel as nervous as I did in high school when I was doing theater, and I felt I had a lot of stage fright. So getting to do theater again kind of helped me with confidence and helped me with, reaching the back of the room with what I wanted to say as opposed to, the camera that's right in front of me.
Yeah, I always find it so inspiring when I hear people in entertainment who I guess dabble in different sects, kind of as you have. So we saw somewhere that you ventured in audiobook narration as well. Where can I find your audiobook?
I'm sure you could find it online if you did a quick Google. I would definitely love to do more of it. I think when I first started, God, it's so cringe to try to listen to those now. But I'm certainly very excited to do more of it, especially for children's books, I think. I'd love to do it. As a kid, my first acting job was sitting in my bedroom with my imaginary classroom reading a book, like teachers do in classes, and I would have lessons and stuff like that. So I think that space really, I just love book narration, obviously. So I'd love to do more of it. Yeah.
And you said you started off in like more production and writing and that sort of sense. Do you see yourself going back into that in the future?
For sure. I think it's funny because, you know, as I said before, I was told to kind of pick between the two because of a biological clock. But I am really trying to embrace doing them in tandem nowadays. And so I have gotten back into writing, and I'm pursuing that with the idea that I will be in the projects that I'm writing, but also while, you know, taking my auditioning seriously, or, you know, with zest. So I hope to be able to really combine the two and be, you know, a writer, actor-writer. Sources are saying I should direct. I don't know about that just yet, but I think I do really love filmmaking. I love being on set, and so I wouldn't mind doing all of it. Yeah.
I really look forward to seeing all that you have to do, like, in the future.
Thank you.
You're amazing, and I really love to, like, see everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving into our next question. So Tim Burton, who like directed Wednesday, is really well known in like as a director and producer in Hollywood, specifically for his like work with gothic fantasy and horror. So what was it like for you working with a figure as established as Tim Burton, like really for his debut television series, like when it was like your first like role as a series regular?
You know, it's funny because being on set with Tim was the most comfortable I've ever felt on any set. So that's wild because I was telling these two earlier that I actually had crippling stage fright in high school where I couldn't actually speak very clearly. And through my years in acting, when I first started auditioning, that was a huge problem for me, was that I would go into auditions and basically not be able to not swallow my words. And so fast forward a couple of years, I'm on set with Tim and doing this character that's supposed to be really confident. And I think in that way, Bianca kind of helped me because I couldn't not be her, right? I couldn't be nervous, I couldn't be shy, I had to be out there. But I think a part of me wanted to be that for myself finally, and that was the beautiful part about it happening on Tim's set, because even though there was this high pressure environment, I felt so comfortable in Bianca's skin that it allowed me to kind of just let go of that kind of that thought and have a lot of fun as well. And thankfully, he's a director who's very collaborative. He loves, you know, people's takes on things, which is why I think his casting is very particular to the essence of the character. And I think because I had that trust, I was able to kind of just fall into it and not really think too deeply about performing.
Amazing, thank you. Now we're going to move into our audience Q&A portion of the discussion. If you guys have any questions, I guess just blurt them out, raise your hands.
I love Q&As because anytime I'm in the audience, I feel like I want to ask a question. I have no idea what to ask. So you guys can ask any random question you want. I'll sit here and answer them. Oh, sorry. That's your job.
No, you can go ahead. You can go ahead.
I was just wondering, you said Tim's set was the one you felt the most comfortable on. Was there anything that he did in particular that made you feel comfortable, or was it mostly the character that was?
I think it was the idea that I was there for a reason, you know? So like I can't get all the way to Romania and suddenly be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this job. But also, thankfully, he wasn't a director, as, you know, many auteur directors can be, who was, you know, a bit of an a-hole. So he was just like a very sweet old man. And anytime you would finish a take, he wasn't even worrying about what performance you were doing. He would just go, good, 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 and then like talk to the DP. So there was a lot of trust in how he directed us that I think allowed me to be able to really flourish. And that's something that I have actually recognized with me being on set, is that I actually do better when my hand isn't being held, when I'm just left to my own devices. So I think it was just the perfect environment for me to kind of, bloom. Favorite color, favorite candy, like anything really.
No, I love your shoes.
Please, I'm not trying to do your job.
Random question, but I love your shoes. Like, where did you get them?
I actually, wait, I know the name. Good American. Yeah, Good American. I had to think of it, yeah.
As someone with like experience in writing, producing like that aspect of entertainment, what's it like being on a set where you're the actor and you have to like relinquish all of that?
It's funny because I didn't exactly relinquish it on this set. Funnily enough, I was able to have a lot of input on my character and what my character's trajectory was. And so it's funny because I'm type A, so I can't actually let it go. Can't actually relinquish control. But no, I mean, it's very cushy to be an actor who's been auditioning in the trenches for years and finally get to a set where you really, all you have to do is act. And so I definitely really enjoyed that, and it allowed me to really concentrate on the craft of it all. And to really better my character, optimize my character as opposed to having 10 other things to worry about. But I'm always a sponge, always trying to learn it. I mean, if it went on for 10 years, I would hope that I'd be able to write and produce on it at some point. I think that's always going to be an avenue that I'd want to explore. So I'm never completely off, but for sure, very comfortable. I'm not picking.
What are the types of stories that you want to tell, the themes that you want to
Ooh, they're quite all over the place, I have to say. It was funny because when Everything Everywhere All at Once came out, I was like, dang it. But I was also like, this is great because now I can say like this movie was successful. So I think my first ever film was actually a hybrid docudrama. It was just 5 minutes long, but I've always, everything I'm working on has some sort of reality element to it. So I don't exactly know why I exist in that space, but I do. So there's that. I think there's something about moral ambiguity that interests me, not because I want to be a villain, but more so because there's just a lot of emotional turbulence that I think is really interesting in that space, especially for somebody who doesn't want to necessarily be bad. Not to get into moralism here, but yeah, so I think that also really interests me. And then like I really just in my head have, how animes, how I just love their action sequences. So I'd love to do something where the action sequences are live action, but like with that kind of frame rate or speed. I'd really love to do something like that. Yeah. Y'all pick.
Yes. So as Wednesday went on, I was really interested in seeing, this mother-daughter relationship be much more explored. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you would have liked, I guess, the first season to have focused more on that? In that.
Honestly, I'm pretty grateful for how much I got to just in season 1 because, I think it's safe to say I'm one of the characters who did actually get to flesh out their family life quite a bit. And so I'm looking forward to exploring that more in season 2. And I think there was just enough to kind of leave you wanting more. So yeah, I'm pretty satisfied.
Do you have a favorite memory or funny story from set that you can tell?
Let's see. There's one that just came to mind. I'm trying to think of another one because I think somebody talked about it in an interview. But the one that came to mind was when Xavier at the dance, he was wearing like a white suit with a black tie, and Tim, at some point, even though that was one of our most hectic shooting days, called somebody to go to the KFC in Bucharest and get a bucket, just a bucket, no chicken inside it, so that Percy could take a picture of the bucket with the suit as if he looks like Colonel Sanders. So Tim found time to do that at some point in the middle of the day. What else? Gosh, I don't know why I'm blanking. There's definitely a lot of shenanigans on set. I think I also really had fun at the night shoots, even though they were quite tough. It's 2, 3, 4 a.m. It just gets zany, and yeah.
Do you have like a particular film or TV series that's been particularly influential to like your artistic development, or something that you just find comfort in?
A lot of Park Chan-wook's work I find comforting, which I don't know if that's none of you know Park Chan-wook, Old Boy director, but his movies are just really, they're genre, but they're really emotional in that way, and I think, who else? I think there's a short film called Sans Soleil, and I'm forgetting the director's full name. His first name is Chris, but I think I watched that movie when I first was in high school, and I think it really opened up my mind to experimental and more contemplative film work. So I think my inspirations in those arenas definitely come from that movie. I also am really into the zombie genre. And there's this zombie art house film, not to be that person, called Ravenous, or Les Femmes, which it was on Netflix at some point, but it came out a couple years ago. It's just a very beautifully done zombie movie, if you can believe that.
Who or what has been like your greatest inspiration or motivation in this career?
I think I get a high off of auditions. It's so fun to get an audition. Doesn't happen all the time, but to get an audition where you're so excited to work with that team, and even though the chances are like -3% that you'll get it, it's exhilarating to be able to jump into a character and really feel like you chewed on it and deliver your material. And then it's exhilarating when you get a callback or you move forward. I think I once had an audition that I did. I was in the room back when we used to, do things in person, and the casting director was like jumping while I was in the middle of like a 4-minute monologue, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, but also I'm still doing my job. And the subsequent callback that I had with the producers and directors, and I just remember just feeling this high of being able to, again, like kind of control and massage the room and what I was saying, and I found that really powerful. I think just being in that space really excites me, and it's the best thing about acting for me.
So I kind of have a two-part question.
Yeah.
We were talking about how representation is really important, especially with the character of Bianca, and a lot of POC unfortunately don't get their stories represented in the media, and there's a lot of people being like, well, the one story that we do have doesn't represent all of us. So I guess, how do you deal with those types of comments and that frustration almost? And then where do you hope that you push the character of Bianca in season 2 and season 3?
Are you asking in relation to Bianca for that first question? Well, I definitely understand the frustrations and kind of the protectiveness that people can have over characters or depictions like mine. But I also, you just have to watch the show and realize I'm kind of one of the better characters in the show. And I think, if anything, it kind of teaches us that we have to give people a chance. And something I like to remind people of is the fact that, yes, there are these kind of bad characters or stereotypical characters, right, that we kind of have a knee-jerk reaction to, but at the end of the day, yes, those are terrible depictions, not saying that they should exist, but the people who inspire those depictions still deserve love and still deserve their stories being told in a loving way. And so I don't think it's the right direction to necessarily say none of those stories should exist, or that we should never depict people in a negative light, because those people need to be understood as well, and they need to be empathized with. But that said, I definitely was extremely protective of Bianca regardless, and went into the process knowing that I wasn't going to do certain things or have certain things be part of my story, because I knew this was, on some scale going to be huge, or at least worldwide, and I did not want to be the face of that. So for sure, I was definitely very aware of it, and that's always been something that I've been invested in from the beginning of my career. It's what inspired me to honestly get into acting, just because I don't like to be told no, and I don't like to be told, like, this is all you're going to do. So it's definitely something that drove my career in the direction that I've gone in with it. And as far as seeing Bianca into the future, I definitely want to see more of this cult business. Also really interested in cults, so definitely want to explore more of that. And again, just, really infuse empathy into this character that, aside from being a mean girl who we kind of just want to laugh at, like, why are they the way that they are? As a victim of mean girls, growing up, I certainly, it's fun to kind of be in the space of, trying to embody them, because I don't know, you discover, like, hey, everybody kind of needs love, and everybody deserves it, quite frankly. And so I really hope to be able to just do more of that with Bianca. I hope that by the time she comes around in season 2, people have kind of warmed up to the idea that, yes, like, there can be a black girl who is a little bit mean, and, like, you won't die. And guess what? She has a story too. So, yeah, if that answers your question.
What's your favorite thing to do when you're not working on set?
I'm always working. Not always on set, but I'm definitely always mentally working. So it's kind of fun, because I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna watch this movie, but also let me check my watch list and make sure I don't need to watch it for comparable for something that I'm writing on. But when I think I'd say spending time with my family is a really good way for me to decompress. Have to practice not having to do something while I'm hanging out with my family, but definitely that. So playing board games with them, I really love. I think also listening to drag queen podcasts is a comfort activity for me. I think video games as well, really comfort activity for me. I love an RPG. Make believe all the way. Yeah, I think that about covers. Oh, and solo traveling. Yeah.
Do you see yourself potentially including pieces of your character, attributes of Bianca, in future writing endeavors that you would create in the future?
I would get sued. But no, I think I definitely really love the type of character she is, which is like, I think very similar to who I am in real life, which is somebody who can be, a little bit intimidating, or, just powerful, I guess. But just the idea that can be really fun, and an opportunity to do that and be empathized with, because I don't necessarily get to do that in my day-to-day life. Or be that in my day-to-day life. And so it's fun to be able to create a character that people love. Other than that, I mean, I'm, don't tell anybody, not an amazing swimmer, so I don't know how much of Bianca would really carry on to other characters. But as far as it goes with confidence, and with, just being really assertive and loyal to the people around me, I think those kind of qualities will definitely continue on. Nothing else, Netflix.
Hi. So as you've expressed, you're a multi-hyphenate artist. You do so much, and there's so much advice from people in the industry that say, if you can do anything else, do it. But if you have to be a writer, if you have to be an actor, then you have to be. But if you can explore anything else, please do that, because this is a hard path. Is there any moment of internal or external validation that told you that you were on the right path and that this is what you should choose?
Well, to your first point, I think people say that because we're not really in a place where people can afford to be rejected. That can be a really tough process for a lot of people. And so I think actors specifically, because that's the angle I can speak from, are aren't familiar with the idea that you can actually act in any way that you want to, community theater has always existed, but that's not necessarily what you're thinking of when you think of being an actor, right? If you love something, you're going to find a way to do it, and I cannot say that I believe in straying from that path, because for me, it was so important for me to be doing nothing else but acting when I was pursuing it, because I knew it would require that kind of dedication. To your actual question, which I didn't forget, I'm gonna remember it in like 30 seconds. If you wanna give me a hint, it's fine.
External validation, just a moment that you knew you were in the right place.
Right. I think it was after about 9 months after I had signed my manager, and then like 6 months after my agent, and I had not gotten nary a job, barely a callback, and I finally got, I think, pinned for a guest star on The Good Doctor, and I was like, oh my God, it's about to happen. It didn't. But then a couple months later, I was on set for Bad Hair, so that was my first job, my first SAG gig, and I remember, wrapping up for the day. I had one line, uno line, 2 words, but I remember either the hair person or the costume person, I was like, okay, bye-bye, and she was like, I'll see you again, and I was like, okay. And then 3 weeks after that, I booked a guest star. So it kind of just snowballed, right? And I thought that was an upward trajectory. You don't realize in acting that it's never a trajectory. It's just simply a surprise at each time. But I think I just felt it was clicking. And ever since, truthfully, any success that I would have since high school was validating for me, because I had been so discouraged from pursuing it. And so discouraged because of, this institution telling me that it didn't really care to have me there. And I was finally kind of getting some sort of recognition that, it's possible. But I think I've always had this idea in my head that this kind of idea was gonna happen for me, or this kind of life was gonna happen for me. And so I've always been working towards it in whatever way. I like to say that whatever you're doing presently, if it's good for you, it's meant for you. And so I think I've always kind of lived in that space and validated myself in that way. These are great questions.
What was how was being in Romania? Just what did you like about there, or what do you not like?
The set food is pretty tough. I don't know if you've seen pictures. It's pretty gruesome. But Romania itself, I actually really, really loved and connected with. I am different from the cast. You won't hear anybody caught dead saying that. But I really, really appreciated it because, as I've said, I love to travel. And so this was an opportunity to travel while also doing what I love. Unfortunately, it was during the pandemic, so I didn't get to go around Europe that much. It was actually my first time in Europe. And so Romania was a pretty funny introduction to Europe. Romanians describe it as a bombed out Paris. And so if you can imagine being from New York, I was able to kind of, draw some sort of connection to it. And it got pretty comfortable pretty quickly. It was also my first time living alone. And so I was just getting to do everything I wanted to do. Travel, be by myself. I'm not a recluse. But, it was just really lovely to be in my own element for that long of a time. And so for that reason, Romania will always have a spot in my heart, and a lovely memory. And I made a lot of friends there too. If any of you ever get the opportunity to travel for your work, what I can advise you to do is make friends with the people around you. I think, especially, I'm not assuming you're all Americans here, but for a lot of Americans, it can be really easy to think that the culture we have here is the mindset that people have elsewhere, but that's really, really not true. It's the furthest thing from the truth. And I think a lot of people can be surprised when they arrive in certain places that it's not really meant for them or meant to fit them. I think because I travel a lot, it was quite easy for me to kind of assimilate in that way. And you'll be surprised how much people actually do want to welcome you and receive you wherever you go. Not to say that problems don't exist, but, you know, a good mix.
What did a typical day on set look like? Was it the same every day? Was it different?
No typical days. No, only because of the pandemic. And also, there was just a lot of moving parts. There were like 18 million characters, schedules shifting all the time, people having to leave locations. It was just, there was something typical about it. For me, I think it was like towards the beginning, we were doing a lot of practice for the Po Cup, so like the canoeing and stuff. And I was also doing fencing training, so I'd get up pretty early in the morning to like, you know, go to set. I got into running while I was in Romania, and so for me, at some point in the day, I would do that. Typically, Jenna was on set like almost every day. I wasn't, and so it was on my off days, I'd be able to kind of do my own thing, catch up on whatever I needed to catch up on. I don't really know what I was doing with my free time, but cooking, I think, walking around, hanging out with friends, yeah. Non-answer to your question, sorry.
If there's any other characters that you think other than Bianca, would you choose?
I don't know, I don't have like an immediate answer for this. I really should just like have it tattooed. I think I would have loved to have been in The Mummy. That movie, it was such a, wait. Pirates of the Caribbean. What's her name's daughter? What's her name? Naomi Harris's character. I'm really bad at names, evidently. Nobody. The Calypso. There you go. Calypso's daughter. I would have loved to have played Calypso's daughter. She doesn't exist, but like I was really hoping as a kid that they wouldn't, write her so that I could get to play her. I'm still hoping for it someday, so that would be great. Yeah, I think something like that. Although I guess, it was completely green screen, which I didn't know as a kid, but like being able to do that. So then also like Lord of the Rings is part of that for me. Just anything like really grand, fantastical. I think it would warm my little kid heart to be able to do that. We got one more.
I'm just going to say, or ask, what's your favorite thing that you're watching on TV right now?
Oh, there is nothing on TV. We talked about this last night. I feel like I have really just juiced TV for all it's worth, and there's really nothing left. But the most exciting show for me in the past year was Severance. Love that show. I'm so excited to see what happens in season 2. Yeah. I'll tell you my comfort show is King of the Hill. So. Feelings, anyone? Opinions?
I feel like there's not a lot of us here. Maybe we could do like a photo op, like line or something.
Oh. That's up to you guys.
Is there a photo op? Are we okay with a photo op later, or yeah? How many minutes? Oh, Elsa.
Cool.
What time is it?
Okay, well, so as we begin to wrap up, we can just skip this. You want to ask your question?
My bonus question?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, it's like semi-exciting. What do you want to see most in Wednesday season 2?
I don't know if that's semi-exciting. No, season 2, I'd really love to see a lot of the characters fleshed out, I think. Obviously, season 1, I had to focus on Wednesday, but I'd love for all the characters to kind of have their day. And I think for Bianca, it'd be really cool to see her powers, full out. I think we got a little taste in season 1. I don't think that's the full extent of them. I'm saying that, I'm not revealing anything about season 2. And so I'd love to see that. And as I said, the cult, really explore what's going on with that. I just love things that have to do with cults. So not in a cult myself, not preaching about one. So yeah, that'd be my answer.
Right.
Any other bonus questions?
Last minute burning question.
Do you have an audiobook voice, and what does it sound like?
Probably pretty close to this one. Yeah, I mean, I think when I'm reading stories, I really get into the rhythm of it, the tone. So I think in that way, if I'm actually reading something, it's different. Yeah, but I think it's definitely very like full of timbre. Yeah, deeper toned. Unless I'm like a 6-year-old girl, but I don't know how believable. I mean, I've pretty much had this voice since I was 8, so yeah.
So we just wanted to thank you again, like so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And it has been such an honor and pleasure to have you here at Brown. And we wanted to thank everyone in the audience for coming and asking such great questions. Reminder, there will be more festival events today, including an advanced screening of Play Society at 4 p.m. and an advanced screening of Renfield at 7 p.m. The rest of our festival events can be found on our Instagram at IV Film Festival, as well as our website.
All right, let's give it up for Joy, everybody.